that the one that you wore to?
I thought I lost it this morning. Clearly I did not.
Hello! We are back at it again. Kind of a very late start, but better late than never, right? So Aaron is playing with his turkey call. Just kidding. He went turkey hunting this morning and thought he lost it and then discovered it in his pocket. Anyway, I'm out here battling this cardboard and he is going to fire up the tractor and spread some dirt. That way he can be doing what he needs to do and I can be doing what I need to do. We've had some freezes. Last night got down into the 20s. The night before it was like 30s. Tonight it's back down into the 20s and then it's smooth sailing from there. It looks like the weather forecast is showing that it's gonna be pretty nice. So over here just checking on everything. And so far everything looks really good. Fresh.
So we are my daddy getting compost out in there. Yeah.
Alright, here's where we're at. Keep these on. It's pretty bright out here. Okay, so here's my thought process with the garden. Last year we dealt horribly with weeds, and so this year I am determined to do something about it. I laid down the cardboard, which I know it works. I mean, people do it all the time. However, I was not accounting for the tractor running over it like it did. So that kind of messed it up. But, so our backup is going to be all these leaves and the hay I've been taking out of the goat barn and the animal pens and using that as deep mulch cover. Now, in some of my beds over here, I did that in the fall. What I did was, on one bed, I did a layer of leaves and then the compost. And that actually worked really well. I'm not sure if my lettuce would have germinated better because it really made it lumpy and I think there was just a lot of gaps in that. And then the other bed, I just did mulch on top and it really did cut down with the weeds. Or, I'm sorry, leaves on top and it really did cut down on the weeds. I'm sure everybody has leaves in their yard, so that's a zero cost, easy thing to use. If you don't have animals or you don't want to go buy hay, I would suggest looking into using leaves. So, I've got all that done. Now I just need to get the hay and lay a layer of hay over it, and it is good to go. Kale cracks me up because I did not plant this here. So either someone dropped a seed or I don't know, but I am thankful for it because this kale is awesome. I believe this is red Russian kale. I think I tried to plant it in this bed one time, but that was like beginning of last season, so I don't know, but I'm thankful. This greenhouse has exploded, but it's nice and warm in here. Parsley babies. What I wanted to talk about today has been on my heart for a little while, and I think it'll kind of give you some of our background and kind of where we're coming from. We lived in Florida it'll be 4 years ago this year that we've moved to North Georgia. And that whole process is a whole story and testimony in itself. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details about that because that's something that Aaron needs to be in the video about, and that's enough that alone is a long video. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But when we lived in Florida and we had first got married, I had gone right into nursing school. A few years later, graduated. We actually lived in a camper on my in-laws' property while I was in nursing school. And when I had graduated, we had saved up enough money for a down payment on a house, and we began to look. I grew up in a neighborhood, like your typical house on top of each other, neighborhood kids, you know, manicured lawns, the whole 9 yards. Aaron did not grow up that way. He grew up in the country. He grew up growing food, hunting, raising animals. That was his lifestyle. So when we were looking for a house, he was from day one. I'm not living in a neighborhood. I want a piece of land. And I was like, I mean, okay, that's what you want. I mean, that's fine. I've never done that before. But everything that he had introduced me to, I had come to enjoy. And so we found a house on 5 acres. It was the most perfect, most wonderful little house in the most wonderful spot. And we loved it dearly. And homesteading was never my goal. Like, I never set out to buy a piece of property because I wanted to homestead. It was more because we just didn't want people on top of us, and we just wanted space. Room for the kids to grow and run and all of those things. But after I had Levi, I started questioning things. I started working in the medical field, seeing people sick and wondering, is there a way to prevent all of this? And when I had Levi, I had decided I was going to do everything in my power to make sure he didn't end up being a sickly child or sickly adult. I understand things happen. That's not what this is about. This is just where I was coming from. So I started making his own baby food, sourcing organic, paying attention to what was going in and on our bodies. I got introduced to essential oils, and it really just escalated from there. We got some chickens, we put in some raised beds, and I really started to enjoy it. And I started to enjoy it on a level of, okay, I can control this. I can control what's being sprayed on this plant. I can control what my animals are eating. Therefore, I know that as a mother and a wife, I'm doing everything that I can to feed our family well. Because if it was up to my husband, we'd eat pizza and tacos from the local pizza and taco place every single night. Like, he is fine. That doesn't bother him. And I'm, on the other hand, like, oh, good grief. And when we sold our house in Florida and we started the move to Georgia, we began to look at property. We began to really decide, if we're going to leave our little slice of perfect in Florida, then we're going to make sure we're trading it for something better. Because where God guides, he always provides. And anything you give up to follow his will always be better. Hands down, 110%, we are a living testimony of that. This land and what we have, this life that we're now living, is 110 times better than anything we could have ever fathomed when we left Florida. So when we moved to Georgia, we began naturally looking for property. Would it be raw land? Would it be a house on a few acres? We didn't know. We didn't have any preconceived notions. We were going into it. We were just going to step out on faith. And I remember always looking at property. We'd go, and my mother-in-law, she's so supportive in all of my crazy ideas. She's like, oh, Rachel, you could totally put goats over here. Oh, Rachel, this would be a great garden spot. She was always with me trying to figure that out, because no matter where we lived, we knew we wanted to grow our own food and raise animals. And we actually, when we came to Georgia, in the first house we bought was not that. It was on 4 acres, but it wasn't really set up to do that, if that makes sense. And it wasn't our forever. So we weren't going to go establishing garden beds. I did have a small greenhouse, and we did grow. We actually ended up splitting a garden spot with a neighbor who had a separate farm from his house. So we did put up a little greenhouse, and we debated getting chickens and all of that. But we knew it was not going to be forever. So we were not going to put too much into that. It was literally my homestead waiting room. And if you're in that waiting period, no matter what you're waiting to do, whether it's a job, a career, having children, growing your own food, homesteading, whatever it is, don't waste that wait. Use that waiting time to prepare yourself mentally, physically, emotionally for what season you're getting ready to go into. And that's what that house was there. I had another baby there. We went through some extremely hard things living there. Had to make some really hard choices while we lived there. How to even get used to being in a new state and a new way of life. This whole city that we live in is 110% different than where we came from. So it was really a time of transition. And at the time I hated it. I could not wait to be out of it. I couldn't wait to have a farm. I was constantly looking online for property, dragging people to go look at things, driving by houses. And looking back, God obviously knew what we needed. We needed that time to wait, to transition. And not only was that a blessing in itself, but it also blessed us and prepared us financially for coming to our farm. So fast forward, we lived in that house about a year. And then we found this property. I've shared before, this property was not for sale. And in fact, we had already put an offer in on another farm, and someone came in underneath us with a way higher dollar amount, and didn't work out. But even looking back on that, where we are now, even the location that we're in, everything about this property, the setup is 10 times better than we could have ever dreamed. And when that property fell through, Aaron decided he was going to start writing letters. And the first letter we wrote was to the owners of this property. And here we are today. So, I said all that to say, I don't want you to look at these videos and think, oh, she is just, that maybe this was handed to her, or she's jumping on the everyone's homesteading bandwagon, or anything like that. This was a process that I have been going through for almost a decade. A lot of things leading up to being into this position. A lot of steps of faith have gone into this. A lot of research, a lot of prayer, and a lot of just being open-minded has gone into where we are today. So if you're in that waiting room, if you're in that time of transition, don't waste it. Don't waste that wait. Use it to benefit yourself down the road. Use it for His glory. Use it for whatever you need it to be to get you to where you're going into. So, I hope you all are blessed. I hope you all find what you're looking for and are able to get to where you want to be. If you're wanting to homestead and that's why you're here, hang in there. It is an amazing ride. It's full of joy. It's full of some really hard things and some sadness. All of that. Anytime you do things that go against the norm, you're going to have people that don't agree with you. But keep going, keep pushing, keep praying, keep seeking, because anytime you seek the kingdom first, anytime you leave your old way behind and seek Him, He won't fail you. He never has, and He never will. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following along on our journey. Thank you for stopping by the farm. I'm going to finish up in this greenhouse. Everything needs watered. And hopefully after this last cold snap we're getting tonight, I can finally start putting plants in the ground. I am just cannot wait to do it. It's like after now that we've been at this property for the last few years, I finally feel like I have a good handle on it and I am ready to go. So thanks for stopping by the farm, and we'll see you on the next video.